The Connection Show, inspiring hope, health, and healing. We have an amazing guest today, Sonja Keeve, and she is a best-selling author, a podcaster, a consultant. You don't want to miss one moment of her show. Before we begin, though, I'd love to introduce you to Amare Global, which is the mental wellness company. In today's society, many people have struggled, with mental wellness and depression, anxiety. We always address our physical, but how many of us take time to look for nutritional products to address not only our gut-brain health, but also our mental wellness? So stay tuned for a word from Amare Global, and then we'll begin hearing from Sonja. Thanks so much for joining us. Amare Global is the mental wellness company. In 2018, Amare won the Nutra Award for the world's first award-winning gut-brain axis nutrition system for their flagship product, the Fundamentals Pack, clinically proven to increase good bacteria in the gut and incredible benefits. Amare means love, and there is love in every bottle. Mental health matters, and Amare is the mental wellness company. Prepare your body's gut microbiome for optimized mental wellness with a reboot and get yourself back to feeling joyful and motivated with mood. Round out your daily nutrition with GBX food systems. Crush your daily to-do list each day with Edge. Support your digestion and immune system with digestive, probiotics, omega, and Vita GBX supplements. Fuel your mental edge with our Mental Fitness Pack. Feel like your best self with the Happy Hormone Pack. Unlock your brain's potential with happy neurons with the Happy Mind Pack. And combine these products for an ultimate day with the Happy Juice Pack. For weight loss and energy, order the Transformational Pack. Our Kids Pack is the first comprehensive mental wellness pack for kids and teens. For a complete mind and body nutrition system, get your kids these today. Begin your wellness journey with Amare's Starter Pack and save. Start with the Entrepreneur Pack if you're serious about making an impact on your mental, physical, and financial wellness. Launch your Amare business with all our top products, packs, offers, and save. Help others achieve overall wellness too and gain financial wellness. Become a mental wellness partner today. Shop now and save. Sign up today by going to our website listed on this page.
The Connection Show. Inspiring hope, health, healing, connecting the dots of your story and transforming your life. Sponsored by Braveheartworkshops, live with Jill Reynolds.
The Connection Show, inspiring hope, health, and healing, sponsored by Braveheartworkshops, live with Jill Reynolds. And joining me today is Sonja Keeve. Welcome to the show, Sonja.
Thank you so much, Jill, for having me.
Well, we're grateful that you're here. And did I pronounce your first name right? Is it Sonja or Sonja? Did I say
No,
right?
you said it right the first time. Kudos to you. You get a gold star.
Good. Well, we want to just jump right in. We don't want to waste any time. And if you'll share with us your story so that hopefully as you share your story, the audience lives will be transformed as a result of hearing similarities in your life with their own.
Absolutely. Well, my beginning roots, of course, is I was born and raised in Philadelphia. And my father owned his own restaurant that he did with my grandfather. And my mother was a teacher. And we also learned dance. My aunt is the director of Philadelphia, which was one of the first African American dance companies, professional dance companies in the country. And that's where I kind of started my roots in arts and learning ballet, jazz, and tap. I have a younger sister, so it's just she and I, and we're about 3 years apart in Philadelphia. Loved everything about it, having friends, the backyard cookouts in the driveway, and just community. And when I was in high school, my mother moved my sister and I, to Richmond, Virginia. So, of course, it was a complete culture shock for me, going from what would be considered the urban city to, I think, the country, because it was full of trees and green grass. And I'm like, oh, my God, where are we living? And they did not have public transportation, at least not in the way that most are used to, like in New York or Philadelphia or DC, like big metropolitan cities. So I really felt really lost as a child when I moved from Pennsylvania to Virginia, and, having to navigate life all in itself. And when I got to high school, your junior, senior year, you're applying for colleges. And so I made sure that I picked colleges that I felt like my mom had to drive at least 4 to 5 hours away, because, she and I were so much alike. And as mother-daughter relationships go, we were always butting heads, because I had my life of what I wanted to do, and she had expectations of her own. And so I had the opportunity to go to college in North Carolina. So yes, I know you would think, okay, you're a northern girl, but yet you keep going south. And it was funny. I actually picked the school. Do not laugh at me. I picked the college based off of my favorite college basketball team, which at the time was University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, which are the Tar Heels. And so I'm a diehard UNC fan. But when I applied to the colleges and, acceptance letters are coming in, I got the letter and it said University of North Carolina. And I was screaming like, oh my God, I got into the college that I wanted to get into. The funny thing is the colors for University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, are baby blue and white. When I got this acceptance letter for University of North Carolina, the colors were green and gold, which are the same colors as my high school. And I was like, wait a minute, why are the colors green and gold? And when I read the letter, it said, congratulations, you have been accepted to University of North Carolina, Charlotte. And I was like, okay, maybe they changed their colors. This is what I'm thinking now. Did not realize that in North Carolina, there is more than one University of North Carolina. There are different cities that bear the name of University of North Carolina.
And you had failed to apply to the one you wanted to go to, and yes! and now it was too late, right?
Yes, it's too late. So I am going to University of North Carolina, Charlotte. What I will say, it ended up being a blessing in disguise, because I met my very best friend there. I had amazing connections that I made. But like many young people, I did not do what I was supposed to do. I partied a lot, and I got kicked out of school.
Well,
so I had to.
So I want to pause there for a minute.
Yes.
Because this is what I shared with my son when he went off to college. I said, in order to pass your classes, never, ever take a class before noon. Because when you're out partying all night long, you'll never get up for a 7 a.m. course, and you'll flunk out. So he took all his classes in the afternoon or early evening. And of all his friends that he partied with, he was about the only one that passed the classes, and because they listened to me. So if you're listening, tell your children to take classes starting at 1, 2, 3 in the afternoon.
Yes. So lo and behold, I did eventually finish school. It took me a couple of years before I actually finished school, because I decided to, work full time, and, my life kind of changed. And so my major was accounting, which was funny because my family, my mother, father, aunts, uncles, cousins, all were teachers. But when I was in high school and we had to take an elective class, I took an accounting course, and I didn't know much about accounting, but I remember when they talked about salaries and careers, they showed the salary of what an accountant makes versus the salary of a teacher. And so I went with the money. So I became an accountant. And I worked in the field for many years. Really enjoyed it, trying to find my way. Then I switched over from just general accounting to becoming an auditor. And that's when I really, I think I found my passion in my lane. But as all good things come to an end, in 2008, when the economy tanked, I was affected by a job layoff. And I could not get a job as an accountant back then in 2008 because the economy was just very different, and many companies were leaning in and not really hiring and paying the salaries that most accountants typically make. And so I had to shift and pivot. And a recruiter reached out to me and talked to me about joining the mortgage industry. Now, I did not own a house. I didn't know about a mortgage. I knew nothing about that world, but I knew I needed a job. And by this time, I had already been married. I had 2 children, and they were babies. But so I knew I needed to work. And so I started in the mortgage industry as a loan processor, working for a financial institution, which I will not say. And so I saw another path for me. I was like, you know what? I'm going to be the next African-American senior VP. That was like my mission and my goal. And I worked my way up the corporate ladder and done very well until I got that notice again, due to a reorganization, we're going to have to let you go. And that was in 2015. And for me, up until that point, I had always worked job hop every 2 years because I was always chasing the money. So to be somewhere for 5 years was a feat in itself. And so when I got laid off in 2015, I was lost. And it was like, not being in this place again of working my way up a company and then to be laid off. And so I had to figure out who I was at my core, because what I understood that my identity was not tied into those job titles. But up to that point, that's all I knew. And I went on a 40-day fast with a Christian group. And the person who was leading that 40-day fast, the theme was that if you were expecting radical blessings in your life, you had to do something radically different. And for me, I had partially done fast, in the past with my churches. And usually for me, after about 7 days, I couldn't handle it. But this was I was in a different space. And so I decided, you know what, why not try this? And so at the end, and during that 40-day fast, I really just talked to God, and I asked him, what is my purpose in life? What was I created to do? I thought it was corporate America. I thought that's where I was supposed to be, because I was raised that you go to school, get a college degree, you get a job, you retire. Well, that wasn't my experience. So I was like, I don't know what I need to do. And so during that 40-day fast, at the very end, I swear on the 40th day, God whispered in my ear, #walk in love, out of Ephesians 5:2. And I was wondering, what does that have to do with me? And what God was challenging me to do, that even in the midst of my layoff and in the midst of my tears, I needed to demonstrate what it means to walk in love by performing a simple act of kindness and then passing it forward. And so at the time I was on social media. And so I started to just kind of post these inspirational sayings, and I would end it with #walk in love. Well, that led to an idea to now jump into entrepreneurship. And I created my first t-shirt apparel line called Walk in Love 2 Creations. And on the t-shirt, very simple, it says #walk in love Ephesians 5:2. And so I adorned that t-shirt and I would go out in public. And what happened was people would either walk past me and say, not enough people do that. Or they would say, I like your t-shirt. But then many would stop me and say, What's the story behind Walk in Love? Well, that gave me the opportunity to share how I found my purpose after a corporate layoff, and that I am challenging the world to perform a simple act of kindness and pass it forward to demonstrate that in this world, regardless of what the news and media try to portray, that we're so divided, that we are all really united in more ways than one. And usually, as we see in the world, the one time when the world comes together is usually after a tragedy or disaster, and neighbors come together, people come together. So I wanted to just let this not be a disaster moment. Let this be our everyday life where we just are kind to our fellow man. And so that kind of took off. People started to buy the t-shirts, but God was still calling me for more. And I end up being approached by a visionary author who was doing an anthology called Women Inspiring Nations. And she had been following my path for several years and felt like I would have a great story to add to this anthology. Now, I had never written a book before, never been asked to author a book. So this was my first opportunity. And so she shared that, I want you to share your story, how you inspire, as a woman, how you inspire nations. And I thought I didn't really have a story, because to me, being laid off from corporate America, that happens to everybody at some point in their life. So I didn't really see it as a story until my husband came to me and said, no, you have a story, because you didn't let the job loss define you. You found purpose in the midst of your pain. And I was like, you really think people want to hear about that? And he was like, yes. And so I started to write kind of my story of how I went from this corporate layoff to kind of jumping into entrepreneurship with the t-shirt line, and now having this dream to become a first-time published author. Well, that really opened up doors and started making more connections for me, that again, I was still being called to do more. And I was like, what else, Lord, do you want me to do? And so in 2018, I participated in a social media challenge for aspiring entrepreneurs like myself at that time to come up with a product or service, but we had to be ready to implement it right away. So someone had talked to me about podcasting, and I had listened to a podcast, I listened to true crime podcast, and I got into it from a coworker, because at the time I was working, my commute was 2 hours. And so you're sitting in traffic for 2 hours, and to combat my road rage, I would listen to these podcasts. And so it was so intriguing. And I was like, man, this is really good. So I knew a little bit about a podcast. So when I did a little digging about it, I said, well, if I were to start a podcast, I would want to interview people, because one of my sheroes is Oprah Winfrey. And one of her shows is called Super Soul Sunday, where she would interview these amazing people around the world in the backdrop of her home. And she'd have these amazing conversations, and it was like a warm blanket, like your favorite cozy blanket. She just makes you feel like a part of the family. So that was kind of my idea, that, I wanted to create a show that I could interview women from around the world and then just have these amazing conversations, but I didn't know what I was going to call it. So I put a question out on social media, and I asked, if I start a podcast, will you be my guest? And to my surprise, 50 women said yes. And at that moment, I said, God, okay, what am I going to call it? And he said, duh, you're going to call it Inspiring Nations, because I was just coming off the book, Women Inspiring Nations. So he was like, I've called you to inspire nations. And so on March the 10th, which is my mother's birthday, and honoring her, we launched Inspiring Nations with Sonja Keeve podcast show. And it just went on to be heard in over 164 plus countries. 4 years later, we are still inspiring nations. And in 2020, when COVID hit, and companies were bringing people back, were sending people home, that's when I got the idea to create another business. And I created Sisters with a Voice podcast network because the success of the show was so amazing, not so much for me, but to hear these women be vulnerable, tell their stories, and it was inspiring women around the world and a few men. I said, you know what? If I was able to create something out of nothing, I need to teach women how to do the same. And so in 2020, Sisters with the Voice podcast network was created, where we help women entrepreneurs to build, launch, and monetize their podcast shows in just 30 days. And I can tell you, it has been the best thing that has happened for me, because lo and behold, I feel like it should be my middle name. But in 2022, I got laid off a third time from corporate America. Sometimes God has to, maybe take your head against the wall to say, like, this is not for you. And so I closed the door on the final chapter of corporate America on July 21st, 2022. And I went full time with my business. It has been the best decision of my life. And I cannot imagine doing anything else in this world, because now I have the freedom to inspire nations. People are inspired by my stories. And if you had told me in 2015 that I would have my own company, have my own podcast network, and help women around the world to do the same, I would have never believed you. But talk about full circle moments. When you listen to God and when you are obedient to his word, he really leads you on the path that you were always created to be. But sometimes we get in our own way. And I am forever grateful to be in this space, because I wouldn't have met incredible women like you, Jill. I wouldn't be on this show. And I know without a shadow of doubt that this is what God created me to do.
I love it. I want to pause for just a second to show your bio real quick. So this is Sonja's bio, and this is her website, where you can find her at sonjakeeve.com and connect with her on that arena. And so I'm curious to know, the last job you had that was your last layoff, what were you doing then?
Still a loan processor.
A loan processor. And how old are your children now?
My daughter is 21 and my son is 19. So I've got a senior in college and my son's a freshman in college.
And your husband supports you fully?
Fully supports me, because it was after I tried to find a job for 7 months and then got the whole, while your credentials are so amazing, we're going to go with another candidate. I remember texting my husband that email, and he said to me, well, you know what? This means that God wants you to do this full time. He said, you go pursue your dreams. I got the family and we're going to be all right. And I just moved with fire to build my company. And I was blessed to host in November of this year my very first conference in person called Podcasters Rock for Women in Business. And it was a success, and we're already gearing up for 2023. So I just feel like the sky's the limit, and there's still so much work for me to do, but I'm happy to be used in this way to help show other women that, whatever dreams that you have, that you're never too old to begin again.
I totally agree. I wanted to ask a couple of questions here. So I too obviously have a podcast show, which you're listening to. And so for those of you, when you launch your own podcast show and take off in your own business, can you share with us, because it's a tough road, I have to admit, at least for me it's been, so I'd like to hear from you. Tell us, how do you monetize now? And so how do you make money, and how can we support you to continue being an entrepreneur on your own? So share with us, how do you earn money with what you're doing, and how do you monetize more so that you can keep your income coming in and doing your passion?
Yep. So most people know think of sponsorships. And while sponsorships is a way to monetize, it takes time to get to that place because you've got to have an audience. You've got to build a network that makes it enticing for companies that advertise to advertise on your show. So I always say, what do you have in your hands right now? So perhaps you have written a book. Perhaps you have other products or services that you offer. Use and leverage your podcast show to talk about those things that you have. So if there's a new book that you have, or there's some products or services, a coaching program, whatever it is, use your podcast to advertise. Because think about it, you are the captain of your own ship. So you take as much time as you need on your own podcast show. So typically on my show, towards the end of my conversation with a guest, I will plug in my own commercial because it's my show. And so you always want to take your listeners somewhere beyond your actual podcast show. So tell them, check out my website, and give them the website address, because what will happen there? When you do that, they'll see your other products and services that you offer and that are available. Utilize this platform to do that. So these are quick ways that you can monetize right away.
So with
yeah.
that, what are your products that you are making money off of currently? What are you selling?
Yep. So currently, we are getting ready to kick off our next podcast cohort called Launch Your Podcast in 30 Days. And so the class will begin on January the 8th. It is a 6-week program where I teach the program live. You get all the information on how to create your content, how to build the show, how to monetize. And I throw in your podcast equipment. So I take away all the excuses so that when you are done the program, you are launching your powerful podcast in just 30 days. And so I tell everyone who's listening, if you've been thinking about that podcast and you're ready to launch in 2023, you need to join my signature program. I only take 10 students per cohort intentionally because I want to create a safe space and a place where you can thrive, ask your questions, and get one-on-one coaching from me. So if you go to sonjakeeve.com, you'll see more information on how you can enroll and secure your spot for the next podcast cohort, January the 8th, 2023.
Thank you so much. And then what else do you offer besides the launching of your podcast? Are you still?
So I do.
Are you still?
Yep. So I also.
I'm sorry. Are you still doing the T-shirts?
I don't do that. I put the T-shirts on hold because we're looking for a new T-shirt vendor. But it's funny. I've had a lot of people say to me, I need to bring that back. So it's funny how things kind of come full circle. So we probably will bring the T-shirts back again. Because it was so popular then, but again, as life happens. So, when we bring it back, we will definitely be sure to let everyone know that the shop is reopened.
Okay. And then, so what else do you offer that we should be aware of so that we'll know what to monetize?
Yep. And so if you already have a podcast, say it's been some time and maybe you're not getting the growth strategies that you're looking for, maybe you're not getting the monetization strategies that you're looking for, I offer 30 and 60-minute podcast consultation strategy sessions. And on that call, you're going to get a personalized strategy session to solve your biggest challenge with growing and scaling your podcast show.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you jumping on. And so I guess I'll just end with my commercial then. I am a meeting and event planner. And so when you shared with me, one of the things that I do is I either do my own events or I offer my services because I have my certification. I used to be a director of sales of hotels. And so I use my certification and my abilities to do unique events, conferences, retreats, and workshops. Many event planners, Sonja, can just do like the atypical, but I do a lot of unique stuff. And so I would love to invite you, Sonja, to reach out to me to consider hiring me to do an event where we can teach people a workshop on how to launch their podcast and do it actually in person, and or we could do a virtual, either or. But so that's something that we might want to talk about and create. I have a proprietary needs assessment that I'll send out to you. You fill it out, and then from there, we look at that, put a budget together, which you being an accountant love, and then from there, we create the whole plan. So that's something that I do that's very unique. And I would love to invite you, Sonja, and the guests on the show today to Aruba. We are doing a connection gathering in Aruba to just have a time to unwind, get away from busyness. And it's called the Aruba Connection Getaway for Men and Women, February 5th through the 11th. And for anyone listening in that wants to register before Christmas, we're offering $150 off your registration if you go to my website, which is braveheartworkshops.com, and under the Contact Me, reach out to me personally to get that $150 off. But register now. We're going to this amazing villa. It's beautiful in Aruba, and at the end of this, I'll play the video so the audience can see what it's like there. And I'd love to have you, Sonja, and see if your husband. It's right before Valentine's Day, so I tell everyone, tell your loved ones, your spouse, your partner, your parents. This is what I want for Christmas and Valentine's Day. I want to go to Aruba.
Yes, I love it. Yes.
So thanks so much for sharing your journey with us. It's a privilege to get to know you. And stay on the show when we end, because I'd like to talk to you off air for just a moment. And everyone, we are so blessed to have you as a listener of the show. Please pass this show on to others. Subscribe to our YouTube, our Rumble channels. We're on both. I've been putting more and more on my Rumble because there's that cancel culture that if they don't like you on YouTube, they take you down. But for some reason, they keep you up on Rumble. So I'm on both channels. So subscribe to both of them, because you could miss an episode if you just subscribe to YouTube only. So thanks so much, Sonja, for coming on and sharing.
A pleasure.
Bless you,
My
everyone.
pleasure.
Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye. Well, that was just so inspiring to get to know Sonja, wasn't it? I really loved her encouraging words of moving forward after you've lost career plans and been laid off from your positions and the trauma that goes on behind that. But how she picked herself back up just amazes me. She's such a strong woman of God. So thanks so much. Before we leave, I had mentioned about this amazing getaway to Aruba. I wanted to show you the image that it is February 5th through the 11th for 6 nights, 7 days. And we are offering $150 off the registration if you register before Christmas as a Christmas gift from Braveheart Workshops. So reach out to us on our website, braveheartworkshops.com. Contact me personally, and I'll discount the getaway for $150 if you register by Christmas. Thanks again for joining us, and listen in about the getaway, and please listen in for all of our shows on the Connection shows, and please support our affiliate partners as well. It helps to keep the show on the air. Have a wonderful day. Join us for the Hope, Health, and Healing Aruba Connections Getaway for Men and Women, February 5th through the 11th, 2023. Are you overworked? Stressed out? Feeling exhausted? Is it time to spoil yourself? Breathe in life and relax at private villas in Aruba for 6 nights and 7 days. Renew your mind and body. Discover greater self-awareness. Join in connection, wellness, stillness, movement, enhance inner peace. Experience amazing beaches. Enjoy snorkeling, area attractions, shopping till you drop. Dine at fabulous beachfront restaurants. Imagine releasing anxiety, reconnect with yourself, restore your soul, bring your friends. Enjoy fresh and savory cooked meals, lasting memories. Join us now. Register today. Book your flight and getaway to Aruba, February 5th through the 11th, 2023. Register by going to Braveheartworkshops.com. Pack now and see you on the island of Aruba. Thank you for joining us on The Connection Show. We'd appreciate your support. Please go to either our Patreon or our PayPal page to support our show. We love our podcast guests and social media subscribers, so you don't miss any of our shows. Go to our website today at braveheartworkshops.com and our Contact Us page. Click on all our social media links and subscribe to and like all our pages. Our affiliate partners, thank you for your support. Go to our affiliate partners page on our website and order from them today. They're offering discounts when you mention Braveheart. Click on their website links to order from them today.